Welcome back. Well, today I am joined by Dr. Chen, who is from Kaiser Permanente, and he is a physician in family medicine. Well, Dr. Chen, thank you for joining me. How are you today?
Great, great. I'm glad to be here, and thank you so much for inviting me.
You're welcome. Now, I understand that the month of February is Heart Health Month, and there's a lot of things to consider with our heart health. What are some of the most important things that we should be doing for our heart?
Yeah, thank you. So one thing that we should all recognize is that heart health, a lot of times you wouldn't know until something happens. So it's very, very important to have prevention. Okay, so when we talk about prevention, we talk about the importance of checking your blood test regularly, to check for cholesterol numbers and check for your blood sugar, make sure you don't have diabetes. Also to have blood pressure check, make sure your blood pressure is good. So those are the basic things that you have to understand about heart health. In addition to, of course, not smoking. Smoking is also a major risk factor for heart disease as well. Yeah.
So when you talk about blood pressure, I know that many times people will buy the over-the-counter blood pressure, things that I guess you call them a blood pressure taker, or what you call it.
Yeah, blood pressure cuff, yeah.
Okay, so how often should people be taking their blood pressure? I know sometimes people get they feel winded and they're like, oh my gosh, I better take my blood pressure. Is it best to do it multiple times a day, once a week? What would you suggest?
Yeah, actually, if you have any question about your blood pressure, you might want to take it more often, which means that you can actually take 6 times of the day. Now, I would recommend how you do it is, first of all, you want to buy the blood pressure cuff that's not on your wrist, but rather on above your elbow. That would be more accurate. Okay. Now, when you take your blood pressure, I would recommend you to take 2 times each time. For example, if we want to do it breakfast, lunch, and dinner, so you check 2 times, breakfast, 2 times lunch, 2 times dinner. And so that way you can get a sense of your average. What we're looking for is actually when people are calm and quiet down and when you're relaxed. And if you take the average of your blood pressure, and if it's more than 135/85 at home, that's actually considered high. And you should let your physician know if that's the case.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's good because I just wondered how often you can take it during the day without being too worried. So getting an average is probably great.
Yes.
What about statins for cholesterol and how does that help for protection?
Yeah, so I think statins have been given a bad rap in the internet, and people are worried about it. But the important thing about statins is it's the main reason why we take statins is not just to lower the cholesterol number. Okay, the main reason why you want to take it is actually you want to protect your arteries. Okay, so let me show you a photo here. So this is the progression of cholesterol plaque that's developing over the years. Okay, so it takes many years for cholesterol plaques to develop. Now, what the cholesterol medicine does is it will stabilize any plaque that's happening and to prevent it from getting worse and worse as the time goes on. So basically, you can think of it, it's kind of like it seals the plaque from forming more and more. So that's the main reason why you're taking a cholesterol medication. Decrease inflammation and preventing heart attack and stroke.
So what causes the arteries to get the plaque?
So yeah, so for example, high cholesterol definitely would cause that. High blood pressure and diabetes, those are the risk factors. So it's usually started with some of the artery inflammation and damage to the arteries. So yeah, so that's why we talk about the importance of checking those. Yes.
Okay, and as well as somebody who was smoking their whole life too, would that contribute heavily to that as well?
Oh, definitely. If you smoke, yeah, your risk for heart attack and stroke, yeah, it goes a lot higher than most people. Yes.
Right. And even though somebody may have stopped smoking, let's say after they'd smoked for a long time, but they haven't smoked like in the last 20 years, because they smoked early on for a long period of time, they could still develop these symptoms, correct?
Yes, that's correct. That's correct.
Okay.
And so, nowadays when we look at whether to put a patient on a statin or not, we are not just looking at the number of your cholesterol number, because for you, Lisa, or for another person, the cholesterol number might not be exactly your risk factor. Okay, it will be different from one person to another. So right now we use this score called ASCVD risk score. It stands for atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease risk score. Now we use this risk score basically to calculate, for example, your age, you're being female, and you have high blood pressure or not, and all those into a factor, and as well as your cholesterol number. And then we come up with a percentage of, okay, what is your risk percentage for getting a heart attack or stroke in the next 10 years? And that's when we decide, okay, if your risk percentage is higher than 7.5, then we'll recommend it. If your risk percentage is over 10, then we'll say, yeah, you really have to do it, so yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you. Now, being that the month of February was Women's Heart Health, what is, and I saw the statistic where it says it's the #1 cause of death in women. And, why do you think that is?
Well, I think, first of all, overall, worldwide, heart disease is actually still the #1 cause of death worldwide, regardless whatever disease, and a lot of people don't realize that it's more than cancer. All cancers combined, heart disease is the #1 cause of death, even with all cancers combined. Mm-hmm. So it's important for us to recognize that, and it's important for us to understand our lifestyle does matter. Getting checkup from your doctor does matter, because the prevention, because by the time you'll be fine, right? But by the time you feel something, then something already happened. You don't want to wait until it's too late, yeah.
Right. There was something that you said to me early on before we were on, and you said that, was it tell me what the statistic was of how many women get.
Sure. It's actually 1 in 3 women were diagnosed with cardiovascular disease annually in the United States. 1 in 3, that's a lot.
That's actually quite high. And another thing that I had heard is a lot of women go, oh, I'm fine, it's nothing, and they don't recognize the symptoms of something. Yes. Especially, even if it was early on. Can you describe some of the things that we ignore as women when it comes to cardiovascular disease?
Yeah. That's a very good question. For women, a lot of times chest pain, they don't get what we call the typical chest pain. For men, usually, people say the chest pain is supposed to be on the left side, that radiates to the left arm, or can radiate to the neck, and it's like a pressure like elephant sitting on your chest. Okay, yeah. So most men get that kind of classical presentation for a heart attack. Okay, for women, sometimes it's very subtle. Sometimes women, they just feel some sort of chest pain, might not be exactly on the left side. They might not be feeling on the left arm. Yeah, so it could be something subtle. So just do not ignore any symptoms that, if you feel some kind of chest discomfort, do not ignore it. You should go to the emergency room and check it out if it doesn't go away immediately.
Well, that was my next question, was if it doesn't go away immediately. So approximately how long do you allow for something like that to subside?
Well, first of all, you have to think about if there's a reason why you have this chest discomfort, right? And for example, if you drink coffee and then you get acid reflux and you get some kind of chest discomfort, and you know the reason of why, right? But if you have absolutely no reason of why, and you just start to feel some chest pain, and especially if the chest pain is not just like a brief few seconds of sharp pain, or if it's like the pain is just when you move it, you feel better. You cannot understand why all of a sudden I have this chest pain and it doesn't seem to go away. I would just go to emergency room,
yeah.
Or you can call 911, especially in the elderly population. I would recommend you to call 911 and have an ambulance take you as soon as possible instead of you trying to drive, because you never know, if you are something going to happen, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, that's important to know, because sometimes I think we probably say, oh, wow, how come I'm feeling like that? And then it could be just indigestion. So it's certainly easy to probably overlook something like that. And then one last thing, a low cholesterol diet, what would that consist of?
Okay, so first of all, I would say try to avoid red meat. Okay, so red meat is beef, pork. Also avoid fried food. Okay, a lot of times people don't realize in pastries, cookie, cake, it's a lot of butter inside. Okay, so there is a lot of that kind of fatty food. So I would say avoid red meat, avoid fatty food. And then as far as your diet, yeah, try to eat more vegetables and fruits. Okay. And then as far as protein, I would say try to eat more fish. Fish is good because it has omega-3, and it actually is protective. So it's good to eat fish. And as far as the carbohydrates, try to stay away from sweets. And eat more whole grain. For example, like instead of eating a white rice, you'll eat brown rice. Instead of eating white bread, you'll eat wheat bread. So it's whole grain products would be better. Yes.
Okay, well, perfect. Well, thank you, Dr. Chen. It was very nice to chat with you. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.
All right. And we'll be right back after this.